Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm doing the astrology report for the week commencing the 4th of April, outlining some of the key aspects taking place this week and various transits, and outlining what kind of themes they highlight to us that we can potentially learn from during the course of this week. Now, before I go through the actual aspects themselves, I just want to clarify, as I always do, that astrology doesn't control our lives and is not something we can really use to predict how things will turn out, because how things occur depend on our own personal choices and the actions that we take. What astrology can do is it can help us understand what is going on around us, help us to understand why the world around us may be reacting in certain ways, so that we can respond more consciously to it. But as far as how the astrology manifests for us personally, it depends on how conscious we are of how our own minds work, and if we've done any work to get rid of some of the triggers that external events can push within us. So in terms of the transits this week, we start off with the moon as usual. So initially the moon starts off in Scorpio, so this will be a time where it's about feeling those old emotions rising to the surface, feeling whatever old feelings or old beliefs that drive things come up, and letting go of them rather than holding on to them. But the moon will quickly move into Sagittarius on Wednesday itself, so this will be a time where we may feel that desire to pursue truth, to put things into a greater context and understand our place within the wider world at an emotional level. It may also be a time where we start playing with new ideas that wouldn't actually have thought of ourselves, but they may be ideas that stem from other kinds of cultural belief systems that we haven't tried before but may actually be beneficial for us. Then on Friday the moon enters Capricorn, and this is a time for trying to implement whatever visions or ideas that we have. So it's a time where we may feel that need for taking steady, disciplined action in order to make things a reality, and to focus on maintaining or work on any ongoing commitments we may have, whether it's with ourselves or with other people. And then finally on Monday the moon will enter Aquarius, and this will be a time where you may feel that need to step back a bit, to detach and observe how things are, how strong our relationship is with the community, and see how can we better help our personal communities, how can we engage in more humanitarian pursuits, and also how can we make sure that our own personal needs are met within the community. Now, in terms of all the other aspects, there's not many exact aspects this week. The main one, which is on Friday the 6th, will be an exact conjunction, or exact square, sorry, between the Sun in Aries and Lilith in Capricorn. So this aspect is about how we shine our light and how we help other people to shine a light. So it's a time where we need to be careful that we don't try and hate anything personally. Lilith is an astrological body, or astrological aspect, that we need to learn to depersonalise things in order for us to manifest the Lilith side in a constructive way. So Lilith demands objectivity in order for us to see things from a wider perspective, see the things that have remained hidden to our perspective so far because we've not maintained sufficient objectivity in what we're doing. But with the Sun Lilith aspect, it can also flag the issue that we may have where we may not particularly like if people try to copy us or try to mimic who we are. It's a sign that Lilith tends to exaggerate things, and with Sun being about shining our own light and our own personal self-expression, this can flag up conflict or issues that we have when people try to copy what we're doing. But on the lighter side, this aspect between Sun and Lilith is also a time when we may feel that push to encourage other people to shine in their own way. So rather than them trying to mimic other people and just be carbon copies of other people, it's maybe a desire to show people how they can shine their own light, to get in touch with their own creative potentials, because Lilith contains a lot of Lilith deals with the stuff that is repressed, or that we've kept exiled from ourselves, or that we don't want to face. But Lilith also releases a lot of creative energy when handled in the right way. And with this square to the sun, it could indicate a significant release of creative energy, which we may decide to try and use to help other people shine in their own way and help them encourage them to be themselves, or better versions of themselves, rather than trying to be someone that they're not because they don't like who they are at the moment. Now, in terms of other aspects this week, as I've said, that's the only one that's exact as such, but we've got the Sun is moving into a square with Pluto and in conjunct with Jupiter. Those two aspects will be exact on Wednesday of next week, but it's worth going through them now because the energy doesn't just happen when the aspect is exact, or the themes, they build up towards it, and the exact aspect is more like the crest of the wave. The wave builds up before that point anyway. So with a square between Sun and Pluto, we're looking at issues where we may have a conflict between our essential sense of who we are and what's going on within the deeper levels of the psyche and what our deeper desires are. Because the Sun in Aries at the moment is about taking those actions, or that drive to make things happen, to pursue the goals and dreams we have. But Pluto symbolises deeper desires, a more primal kind. Pluto is the deepest levels of the self that require us to do the shadow work, to go into our own unconscious mind and shine the light of awareness on it, and then through the polarizing influence of Pluto, separate the positive qualities from the negative, and ideally jettison the negative ones through, essentially like the process of the phoenix. It burns away the old layers that no longer suit us, or no longer who we are, in order to create that space for us to be reborn anew. And with Pluto going through Capricorn, this is also looking at, are we trying to build a legacy that is right for who we are, or are we trying to pursue goals that we've taken on board because we think they're right for us, but actually fulfilling something else that isn't fundamentally true to our core nature? And the more we try and persist at it, the more we may feel the need to try and control things out of an insecurity that deep down we know that what we're doing isn't necessarily in our highest good, but we fear taking those changes or making the changes necessary to live more aligned with who we are. And this doesn't mean that we take any drastic or make any drastic decisions or do anything severe or dramatic, but it does require us to be honest with ourselves and to observe, where do we project our own internal conflict onto others. Because with the square aspects, it usually symbolises conflict within ourselves, but often we struggle to deal with that, so our subconscious will project one end of the struggle onto someone else, and that person becomes a hook for our projections. And it's important that we learn to recognise this, that we learn to cultivate greater awareness of ourselves through things like meditation, through contemplation. Now, how you meditate is entirely up to you. There's various ways of doing it. We're all wired differently. Some forms of meditation work better for some people and not for others. And some of us may have a mind that doesn't really shut up, so we may need something like gentle walking, which we find naturally calms the mind down because we're burning up energy through the exercise, and that then allows the mind to calm down because it's being less overloaded by all that excess energy. But either way, it's important that we get in touch with those core primal drives within us and become aware of them, to understand them and understand the reason why we engage in behaviours which may sabotage our conscious goals, because there's something much more powerful within our unconscious mind or the deep levels of the subconscious that hijacks what we're doing or undermines it because it hasn't had the light of awareness shone on it yet, so we don't realise we're doing it. So when we experience this conflict, it's important that we slow down and take a pause, step back from the situation for a moment and honestly reflect with ourselves. is the conflict we're experiencing with other people actually because the person has an issue with us, or are we actually unconsciously projecting onto that person, and that person just serving as the mirror for our own unconscious issues? If that's the case, then that person is serving as a teacher for us, they're mirroring an issue to us, and we need to retrieve the projections from the people that we're experiencing conflict with, and take the issue within us and reflect on it, become aware of what's causing the conflict, and through acceptance we transform it. If we resist it, then it just persists, but if we accept these issues are within us, we can work with them, we can transform them so they no longer sabotage us, they become like a source of energy or a power drive within us that's guided towards the goals that are right for us. But it's something that isn't forced upon us. We have to choose to make use of this transit. It's not something that will just magically happen. We are all responsible for how our own lives unfold, and whether or not we continue to operate unconsciously, or if we seek to, through the power of awareness, become conscious individuals who respond to situations rather than react out of unconsciousness. Now, the other aspect I mentioned was an inconjunct between the Jupiter retrograde in Scorpio and the Sun. So this is an aspect which may indicate a fundamental disconnect between a sense of who we are and a sense of how we need to expand or achieve that greater self-awareness, or that greater understanding of our own personal ethics. It may indicate where the beliefs and ethics that we hold within us are in conflict with the actions that we're trying to take in order to initiate something new in our lives. So it's important that during this aspect, which will, like the square between the Sun and Pluto, will be exact next Wednesday, it's important that we look within ourselves and figure out, why do we struggle to link the beliefs that we have to who we are? Why do we struggle to see how the beliefs we hold are informing or affecting the reality we do and affecting the actions that we take? Because Jupiter deals with things like our belief systems, our moral code, our personal code of ethics, and with Jupiter being retrograde, we're all being asked to review these, to reflect on whether we're pursuing actions and goals that are right for who we are and are aligned with our own inner compass, or if we're going along with goals that other people have said are the right ones to do, and we're just going along with it out of fear of judgment from others. So it's important that we be honest with ourselves here and see where our actions and our beliefs out of alignment with one another, where do our belief systems hijack our capacity to take empowered action, and where do we need to face and challenge these beliefs we hold within us about ourselves, about our relationship with power, and challenge the beliefs that keep us playing small, that stop us from taking the actions that we know we should be doing. And through challenging these beliefs and letting them go, we empower ourselves through embracing more positive beliefs. It's not just about getting rid of old beliefs, it's also about planting new beliefs within our minds about what we can do. And it's obviously important that we're realistic as well. We don't just pick any old belief, but it's important that we switch disempowering beliefs for more empowering ones, because we're all responsible for how our lives pan out. And if we can't change what's happened in the past, we can change our own internal landscape, and that in itself changes the future that we will eventually create for ourselves. And it changes the actions that we're taking them now, and it's these actions in the present moment that determine the course that our future will take. So if we know what future we want to create for ourselves, we can identify what beliefs we need to take on board and believe them wholeheartedly in order for us to have the courage and fortitude to pursue a new goal when it may be different to anything we've tried before. Now, during this whole period, we do have a trine going on between Mars in Capricorn and Venus, who's recently moved into Taurus. So Mars obviously represents our inner masculine, and Venus represents our inner feminine. And we all have these two energies within us, and we're all responsible for bringing the two into balance. The energies, yes, they're opposing, but they're also complementary. The two of them are like the yin and the yang. They're necessary in order to get a complete whole. So during this time, the trine between Mars and Venus gives us an opportunity to achieve a smoother balance, or more easily achieve a complementary balance between these two energies, so that our actions, because Venus deals with our value system, our judgments and our relationships, whilst Mars deals with desires, actions and assertiveness. But it's the value system of Venus that dictates to some extent the actions and desires that we have. It's through those lenses that Venus deals with that we then formulate our actions and desires. So with the trine between these two, we have an opportunity to bring the feminine and masculine energies into balance within us, and if we have this internal balance, then we're less likely to feel conflict between ourselves and people of the opposite sex. It's a lot of conflicts between them two often stems around the fact that we don't have a healthy relationship with both energies within us, but that's something only we can work on ourselves. So part of it is obviously, for men, it's learning to be comfortable with emotions, because it's something that we're all told that is not good. It's not manly to feel emotions, but emotions are a core part of who we are. We can't avoid them to some extent. Whilst for women, it could be learning to be assertive in a healthy way, and to have those boundaries, to have that desire and the courage to take action rather than being confined to just being a passive person in life. So we all have a responsibility to bring these two energies together to achieve a healthy relationship with our inner feminine and inner masculine, so the two work together like the yin and yang. And this, having this healthy relationship within us, means that we no longer need to try and manipulate everyone around us in order to get these needs met as such. We're not living parts of our being through another person. We achieve that wholeness within us, and this then enables us to achieve healthy relationships with one another, where there's no power play to try and manipulate ourselves to achieve a sense of completion through another person. We feel whole in ourselves, so we don't need to control other people, and then we can, from there, and it means that we can work with one another because we want to work with one another. We want to share our resources, share our lives with one another. We want to share our abilities and skills to achieve greater goals, or greater achievements than is possible as one person alone. But if we're to resolve the polarity going on in the world around us, then we need to reconcile these energies within us first, because it's through achieving that inner harmony between knowing when to be receptive and passive and when to be active and assertive. When we have that balance within us, we achieve a sense of peace, that inner stillness, and this then empowers us to do things in a harmonious and honest way. It empowers us to be whole within ourselves, and this allows healthy relationships with one another to form, and it helps to overcome some of the polarity that is driving people apart, and instead come back together again to recognise the need for partnership, the need for cooperation, but also recognising the need to assert our own individuality, to assert our sense of identity, assert our own needs, and at the same time the wisdom of knowing that the other person has their own values or their own needs, and it's important we respect them for that. We respect their needs, but we make sure that ours are also being respected. And through this mutual respect and mutual honouring of one another, empowered communities can be built where each person is honoured and respected for who they are. There's no trying to, it's more for me is less for you. It's working together so that there's greater shared resources and greater goals and greater objectives can be built through working as communities of empowered beings. So there's quite a lot to take on board there, but as I said at the start, astrology is not something that controls us, it's something that helps us understand what is going on around us. It helps us to understand what potential triggers or themes can be highlighted at this time. But the more we work on ourselves, the more we dedicate a bit of personal time to self-reflection, self-awareness and meditation, the more aware we become of the workings of our own minds, and the more we can identify certain key triggers within our unconscious mind and deactivate them, so the world stops having the same kind of influence over us, and we can then see things from an empowered, objective perspective that allows us to respond to situations rather than react to them. And the ability to respond rather than react is a very powerful position to be in, because we're now choosing how we're going to deal with something rather than blindly reacting and getting stressed out about it. So spending time, I mean, we have Mercury retrograde going on at the moment as well, which will come to the end on the 15th, but this is a time for taking things slowly, to, where possible, set aside some time just to reflect, to cut away all external stimulus, and take that inward journey as well to bring greater consciousness and self-awareness to our own minds, so that we can take greater control of how we respond to situations, and therefore the actions we take are likely to be guided by wisdom rather than blind impulse, and we can transform the Aries nature within us from fiery, impulsive and angry to careful, considered and objective, and we can achieve a greater degree of selfless action where we recognise the need to help other people whilst honouring the self, and we can make sure that our actions are guided by wisdom rather than egoic desires. So there's a lot to take on board, but may the coming week bring you many new opportunities for growth, may it bring you greater self-awareness, and may it bring you greater forward progress on whatever goals you've decided to set for the year. But as long as we remember to take that time for ourselves to devote, even if it's just a few minutes a day, to devote to cultivating deeper self-awareness, the more empowered we can become to deal with situations in a wise and considered way, rather than blindly trying to fix things without really knowing what the best thing to do is. And the more likely we are to achieve our goals in the long run, because we're doing things or taking actions that are guided by wisdom and objectivity rather than by blind subjective impulses and blind reaction to others. So may the week bring you many blessings, many opportunities for growth and self-empowerment, and may it bring you further progress along whatever goals you set for your life. Take care, be blessed.